All right, welcome to the Sushi Forum, where we discuss this week's news, proposals, and developments in the Sushi Swap ecosystem. This week, we have Omakase and Kino with us to discuss the most recent Kashi and Bento Box release. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Happy to be here. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you for having you.
So, with the most recent release for Kashi, it's not the full release yet, it's just like I don't know what you would call it, V 0.5 or 0.9, I don't know.
Yeah, I would say we're currently at an alpha release. As we do more testing, tighten up the UX UI, and then add some additional features to reach parity with the you know feature set that the contract provides. So currently, what's on staging is people can play around with it. You can also play around with it on Ropsten. If you don't want to use any ETH. But on the product you see on staging is purposely restrictive right now as we go through clean up some things and add some more features. Once those features are added and this interface will be merged into and live on the exchange.sushi.com. And it'll be like yeah, I think that would take. We have it scheduled for a couple weeks to have a fully featured release.
Gotcha, gotcha. And are you going to roll out features individually, or is it going to be a big release, just like in the coming weeks once that's all?
Sure. So on staging, I guess you'll always see like what we're working on. We're going to be releasing market creation interface that allows anyone to create a market, of comprising of asset and collateral. So this is actually one feature that isn't exposed right now that separates, Kashi from all the other lending protocols because we do isolated lending pairs. If you don't see a lending pair that you'd like, you can actually create your own and supply liquidity to that pair. Right now, we are restricted to tokens that have chainlink oracles, but eventually we'll be uh, expanding that token list to Sushi Swap TWAP. Even if you want pegged or different types of oracles. For now, they're all chainlink. And eventually, I guess once, so that's the first feature we're working on to bring it parity with the contracts. The second one is definitely something that's on some people's minds, which is leverage. So the leverage feature we're going to be integrating into the. If we have those two features, create markets and leverage. We'll merge everything into exchange.sushi.com, and then it'll be like very accessible. So I know there have been some complaints that like on staging.sushi.com, like you have to approve in order to like enter the interface. That's purposely restrictive right now. When we do like a full rollout, like there'll be a preview option, and you can go preview. You can like see the interface, and on your first transaction, if you do choose to make an action, enable Cache will be rolled in with whatever action you're performing all in one transaction. So that's like a nice thing that the contract supports. And we're tightening up some features. Like I think the first UI pass, um, probably emulated lots of compounding cream in these traditional lending protocols. But because Bento Box and Cache is very efficient, we can actually chain a lot of transactions together in interesting ways. So for example, on Compound you have to add collateral, or you have to supply and then enable that supply as collateral, and then you can borrow, and that's probably like the approve, the add collateral, approve and borrow is probably like 4 different transactions. And on Cashi, you should be able to, add collateral and borrow all in one click and all in one transaction. So that's part of the UI that we're changing because we felt the original UI was, too representative of traditional lending protocols and didn't really leverage, the full features of the contract. But those are just some examples of enhancements that we'll be rolling out. And once all those enhancements are in place and we're like happy with all of them, um, the I guess the um, production launch will be, just hosted on the main interface on exchange.sushi.com.
Gotcha. And so on the oh, sorry, Kino, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I mean, no worries. I think like what's also important to say is that um, even if if our UI will only support adding pairs which have chain link oracles, that doesn't stop anyone else to build an UI that would support adding other pairs. Like what we kind of want is like when we release a UI that it confirms that the oracle parameters are correct and that like the price feed you're getting is from actually about the pairs and goes from the collateral to the asset in the way it is supposed to go. But anyone would be able to like build kind of like a degen interface which maybe doesn't have this security features and already enables TWAPs oracles much earlier because all of the contracts are openly accessible and the contract interfaces are all available. The code is open source.
Gotcha. So is theoretically like the full functionality of Cache available from the code side, from like a developer side, they can access the smart contracts, or there's still things?
Exactly, right? So the idea is like Bentbox and Cache provide a great modularity, which means that kind of like that there's like an Oracle module, and one Oracle module is kind of like this chainlink module, which where the confirmation of that data, whether that module is integrated correctly for Cache pair, is something we do in our UI. But anyone would be able to like do a different Oracle module, of which we already created a few, and use that to build an interface that allows to create pairs based on those modules. Or anyone would be able to create a project on top of BentoBox that does something different.
I see. So it just openly it it's just open enough to where you can build on top of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's
So
really cool.
so for example, I guess there are there's there's the cook function in the contracts that allow for building very modular and very sophisticated UIs. So that's something that anybody can tap into the power of. So basically, what the cook function does is into one transaction, right? That's like explain it to me like I'm five kind of description. But using the cook function, you can actually, for example, let's say Kashi has lots of USDC markets, right? Where USDC is like the asset and you want to lend out USDC. Somebody could make a UI that allows you to, in one transaction, deposit USDC across all available USDC markets. And then you can make it more sophisticated. You can say, hey, actually, I want to, weight my distribution of USDC across these markets based on, the lending interest rate, right? That's available for these markets. So I want to, put higher proportions in, markets that have higher interest rate and, lower proportions in markets that have lower interest rate, right? So you can actually, have one input field, right? You can have one button and you can click that and, using the cook function, you can make all those things happen from the UI side. Then you can, make a second button to, that users can click to rebalance, once a week, once a month. So that's an example of a very sophisticated UI that anyone can build right now, because all those features are accessible from the contract. So there's lots of cool things that like Bento Box and Kashi has in store. And we will be releasing like better documentation, detailing how to, interact with these contracts. Because right now it's kind of like you have to go read them to understand. But you know, once people discover this cook function, that's really the thing that like powers a lot of the efficiencies in the UI, and that's also why we've decided, hey, we should work on the UI a little bit more because there's the potential to do a lot of interesting things, right? That Compound and Cream and other lending protocols can't, right? Like they can't chain together transactions in such a way. So that's one of the examples.
That's pretty interesting. Can something like that chain transaction where it's distributing in a variety of DeFi platforms that could be used for a bento box strategy as well, right?
Yeah,
Um,
sure. So
yeah.
like that's like kind of like another level. Like you kind of have the Kashi level, which is lending, and then you can apply strategies to the whole of a token on the Bento Box level. And there, like the only important thing is that kind of like the community has to decide like what kind of like what the risk factor is they're happy with, because a strategy will be applied to the whole of a token. So we could have a strategy that says, okay, let's farm for comp tokens. And then obviously kind of like there's a security risk there that there's a reliance on compound for them to not fail completely on that part.
That makes sense. Like basically just the risk assessment, the same way that MakerDAO does for collateral types.
Yeah, no, but in the end, like those decisions will be up to the community. Um,
And I did have one sort of functionality question that might, I don't know. I, I when I realized I didn't know the answer, I felt really stupid that I had not thought about this before. But um, say you are a supplier for sushi in the Kashi market for sushi ETH, and you supply sushi. Um, and then somebody puts up ETH as collateral and then borrows sushi out. Are you locked into the supply position until that person fully repays their
I mean,
sushi loan?
kind of like the question whether you can withdraw your loan like a loan position depends on whether there's liquidity, right? Like that's how it works on any lending protocol. Like if if the pool is 100% borrowed out, and for example you have supplied 100% of the pool, then no, you can't withdraw any of your position.
Right, right. But that's only at
But
100%.
but for example, if the pool has a utilization of 80% and you've supplied 1% of your pool, then sure you can withdraw your whole position because there's enough liquidity there at that moment, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes perfect sense, and further makes
Uh,
me feel stupid for not thinking of
no,
that.
it's good to ask these questions, because if you have them, others have them as well, and it's important to talk about it. One thing I feel like that hasn't been talked like a topic that hasn't been talked about enough is the elastic interest rate part, because I feel like that's somewhat as exciting as um, almost as exciting as the isolated lending. That the interest rate only depends on utilization and goes up and down depending on it. So
So so I understand that the interest rate is I guess the elasticity part is that it can correct quickly or faster than like how is the interest rates on Cashy
Yeah,
specifically different than like Aave?
so the thing is like on Aave, you kind of have a like you have a curve, right? That says if the utilization is this, then interest is this. You can see that very clearly on
Mhm.
Compound. Um, like it has a nice graphing feature. Um,
Oh, so they cap out somewhere.
they have it hard coded, right? Like
I
you have
gotcha. Okay.
utilization equal to X percentage, you have interest X. And the interest like different thing with Kashi is you have a target utilization window, and at that target utilization window, the interest is constant. And if the utilization goes above this target window, the interest rate goes up. And if it goes back into the window, the interest rate stays constant. If it goes out of the window, um, the interest rate goes down. So different pools will be in the target window, but will have very different interest rate depending on how it moved before that, right? And the idea is that like this kind of like being able to move up and down because of a fluctuation and people changing positions because of changing interest rates will better get the optimal interest rate for an asset pairing.
It's basically rebalancing to sort of like the I don't know market equilibrium interest rate.
Yeah, that's the idea, right? And I think
So
that's quite
why
interesting.
does Compound and Aave hard code the interest rates? That seems really weird.
I mean, like it's on a curve, right? Um, but on
Oh, okay.
but
So
on
it's not. It
the
doesn't.
end,
Okay.
yes, like it's just the way they do it, right? And we decide to do it differently, and I think that's innovation.
True.
Like, I mean, that's I mean, we did differently because we think it works. It's better to do it differently.
And do the interest rates adjust via using like the keeper network to sort of run a operation in a contract?
No, so like whenever there's an action where interest rate should accrue, uh, like not only interest is accrued, but the interest rate also changes on utilization. So those moments are kind of like, for example, when you borrow, you have to get to like the actual interest rate of that moment. Um, if you liquidate, you want to do that, and uh, probably other actions as well. Um, but obviously, anyone else would be able to also call that accrue from the outside.
Gotcha. So could it theoretically be set up as a keeper job? I mean,
It could,
also,
yeah, right.
I
Like
imagine it probably
if
doesn't matter if it is also getting called by users whenever they're interacting.
I mean, the idea is kind of like that there's incentive for liquidity providers, um, or for users for the interest rate to shift, right? Like if the utilization is above target window and the interest rate is going up, it's in the interest of the suppliers for this change to be reflected, right? Because they get more money. So then it's in my interest to to due to that fact. But if I'm a large borrower in the pool and if I'm below target utilization, it's in my interest to make sure that the interest is going down. If that
I
makes
see. I
sense.
see. Yeah. Yeah. I also just wanted to put a reminder that this is an open format. So if anybody had any comments or questions or anything they wanted to bring up, feel free.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, it's a slightly more esoteric one. But as a huge fan of sushi, I'm a huge fan of decentralization. But at the same time, like I know to coordinate efforts, it takes a lot of centralized decision making and coordination. And I just kind of want to get a feel for how the core team looks at the balance between decentralization and just kind of having some sort of coordination and leadership.
Yeah, that's a great question, Naragu. I don't know. Do you think
Yeah.
Joseph? I don't know, Moxie, if you wanted to take
Sure.
it.
I'll say something about it. Yeah, there's yeah, I think that there's like the day to day. We have kind of like our we kind of like try and uh, carry out kind of like the will of the protocol in some senses. So if we feel that we need clarification, right, we'll go for a proposal. And just generally like we want to avoid kind of like voter fatigue of people having to propose everything, and just like a general company, right, like the only difference here is instead of having a board of directors, we have class A stocks. Shoot, I don't mean that's not what I mean, right? But we have this like we have this like we have this governance, right, aspect that like kind of like allows us to um that kind of like influences the operations. But like you wouldn't go into a company, like let's say that you're a McDonald's like shareholder, right? You wouldn't go into McDonald's and like figure out like how they're making McFlurries, and the assumption is that the people who are working there are carrying out the best interest of the protocol.
Yeah, and I guess I can follow up on this point, which is, as Joseph said, there are day to day that, the wider community doesn't necessarily need to be involved in. For more strategic decisions, it's usually, we'll put up a proposal on, the forum and see what everybody's inputs are. I do think while we build, we can do a better job of building more openly and like getting feedback from the community as we build. This is probably just it's not easy building openly for any engineer. It's actually very scary, right? Because people are afraid of feedback, etc. But I think this is something that we'll eventually have to train. I think additionally there have been some great proposals right on the forum posted either by core engineers or just community members that have gotten a lot of traction, gotten a lot of feedback. You really see like the spirit of collaboration in those proposals. Like right, there's a couple proposals to name a few. Right, I think we should eventually move more of some of the product and also product feedback, user feedback elements of our development cycle onto the forum to involve our community more often, like sooner rather than later. I'll be the first to admit that we don't really do a good job of that because there's actually no traditional format for doing that right openly. It's not typical to do that openly. I think another thing we could do in order to engage with the community more often is we need to, and I'll be the first to admit we also need to do a better job of like hosting more of these AMAs and leveraging our community. I think on the flip side of that, lots of core engineers and people on core these days have come directly from our community. So I do think that's something that's a little understated, which is, in an open setting, in a governance setting, right? People who contribute a lot, put in the most work, right? They will get noticed, right? So this is a little easier on the technical side because we're always like working on so many different things. So it's harder for non-technical folks to shine, right? But there have been lots of technical contributors in the past that have just jumped into our community, started helping out in repos, and started shining, and they're on core team these days as well. So there is a consistent we are onboarding consistently from the community, and that will continue to happen. And yeah.
Maybe I can also add something on the Solidity side. I think like what I strive to do there, and with everyone on that team is to work in the open. Like every commit of BentoBox, every commit of Kashi was public from the get-go. Everything from MasterChef V2 to Limit Order is visible to anyone. Like kind of the difficulty is to see how these technical developments translate to showing these advances early to the community, because it's really hard to sometimes discuss kind of like a product with its technical limitations in a non-technical setup, and I think what John alluded to earlier is that kind of need to find better ways on explaining that. But in general, anyone is more than happy. I'm very happy about anyone that forks and puts back a PR into our projects, and we'll look at them and get back on it.
Awesome. Yeah, I sort of understand what you're saying about talking about technical limitations in a non-technical manner. It's like
I guess, does that answer your question, Noragu? Or was there, I guess, a different element?
Yeah, it does kind of like you guys are talking a lot about again like um community engagement, but I think like the core team is kind of developed, and I think like there needs to be a consolidation and like you guys, like a consolidation of the core team and the consolidation of everything about sushi. Like there's a bunch of different URLs, and like there's a lot going on, and I just think it's the beauty of decentralization. Like so much has sprung up, but I think like after the spring you have to have the contraction, like the period of consolidation. And I just think like I'd like to see this team consolidate a bit without without compromising the values of decentralization. I'd like to see a little bit of consolidation, I guess.
Right. I think I can speak to this consolidation part. I think we are, if we're being honest, right, we are on the cusp of consolidation. And if like, and how I've always viewed sushi, right, and this is kind of the general mandate that the community has given, which is sushi wants to be kind of like, a decentralized trading platform, right? So not just an AMM. So as we, with all of our product initiatives, you see that we're slowly consolidating, all these different product areas. So for example, bento box, right, and kashi, like why are those necessary, right? Because naturally as an AMM, right, as we grow into like a decentralized trading platform, like what do you expect from a trading platform? You expect, to take short position. You expect to have leverage, right? And in order to have leverage in short positions, you need like lending markets, right? So this is kind of like how Bento Box is born, right? Why Kashi is necessary. So you're starting to, see all these different pieces, right, come together for like a holistic trading platform that's built in a completely decentralized way. I think that's kind of the ethos of Sushi, right? As we grow into this like mature, like decentralized trading platform product, and we kind of expand outside just AMM, right? We're not just swap and add liquidity anymore, right? We're swap, take short positions, limit orders, you know, um, take limit orders, leverage long, leverage short, right? Everything you would expect from like a fully featured trading platform. And then, as we have other initiatives, right, such as like Miso to bring in, token launchpad, so we can kind of see this whole token supply chain from like, token creation to token incentivization through onsen, and then through like token maturization, and then for our other users like token discovery, right? So that's kind of always been what I feel the ethos of Sushi has been, right? Like other projects may like focus on a very specific primitive, right? Like Compound may want to focus just on lending, right? Like Uniswap may just want to focus just on the AMM portion, right? And Sushi has always been, and because our community has been so diverse, right? Naturally, what people are expecting are this comprehensive decentralized trading platform. And I think we're right on the cusp of like seeing all these you know discongruent pieces all come together, and that's where it starts to get exciting, right?
I think like what's important, more than like, I think you need focus. You need focus on like what you bring out, and you need common quality standards. Like when you build something decentrally and you want to build something great decentrally. So that's talking about the Solidity side is like kind of like that. That's what we did. Like we worked on what kind of quality standards we want to have for Solidity code, and then we kind of worked on ways and how we can enforce these quality standards by reviews and by kind of like test methods, by following verification. And I think then you can allow outside contributions in, and you just make sure, okay, like we apply like the same standard across everything, and then we can ship out smart contracts, which are very similar in quality for different areas, which might diverge from like this core um, task of swapping.
Yeah, I like those answers. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your question, man. All right. So for Cashew, we are looking at like uh somewhere in the range of a couple weeks to get the full UI released. Are there anything I didn't cover talking about Cashew that you guys think are important to get out to the community?
I think people can go to staging right now, but they need to make sure to switch their network to Ropsten, the test network, because Kashi is has feature parity on Ropsten, and if you have Ropsten ETH, you can play around with lending and supplying withdrawal collateral, and hit any edge cases, right? So for example, like as you just asked Magic Turtle, right? Like if utilization is 100%, can I withdraw? An error should show up saying that you can't. So I do think that I do recommend people to play around a little bit, and that's why we have the Ropsten uh, Ropsten environment set up, and it's will always be feature parity to our latest staging branch. The reason is I think isolated lending might be a little new for some people. Like in our recent UIs, we've also upgraded the language because we realized, originally it was called supply and borrow, but this might be a little confusing since, traditionally on, compound, it's called supply and borrow, but, supply is also, you can also enable it as collateral, right, on compound. Whereas in our case, it's really, I guess the appropriate terminology is lend and borrow, right? We have lenders and we have borrowers. Lenders, all they need to do is like supply the, lend out the asset, and borrowers, they need to put up collateral in order to, borrow that asset. I think that is a little bit tricky, right, with Kashi. But there are, numerous advantages to isolated, lending pairs, and that's why, it was designed that way. And I'm sure someone can speak to the benefits of why isolated lending is important compared to, these general lending protocols like, Cream, Aave, and Compound, right?
Yeah, I had actually sort of started to reformulate opinion on sort of these isolated lending pairs. Um, I, I don't know what you guys anticipate, but I am sort of starting to think that uh, large tokens like, or I guess I should call it pairs, but like WBTC USDT, for instance. I don't know if that market will ever be big on Cashy, because why would I not just put WBTC into Make or Die and take a 2% DAI loan, right? But for other tokens, for newer tokens, for DeFi tokens, then that's like the entire,
No, but
market space.
so the thing is, right? Like Compound or Aave or Cream can always add a new token, and even if you go in with WBTC, you might have a problem, right? Like, for example, let's say you're on Compound, you supply WBTC, and someone else comes in with and the Compound community decides to list, I don't know, SCM token. An SCM token has the founders of it still have the ability to mint more SCM tokens. So it's onboarded as a new collateral. You just like dumped like a few WBTC in there and forgot about it because you were just farming comp, right? And then this token is onboarded. They mint $100 million of it, put it in as collateral, take out every asset in Compound, and your money's gone.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so there's no like, and somebody should definitely build this. There's no chart that shows you on these, general lending platforms what the counterparty's collateral put up proportional to your like, to the token that you've supplied is, right? Like if you were to, let's say, there was a product that showed you the composition of the breakdown of, what collateral, right, is used um, for the asset that you've lent out, right? Let's say you've lent out WBTC and it's like, oh, 50% of the people borrowing it has put up ETH as collateral, 20% has put up, USDT as collateral, and maybe, there's another 20% that has put up this new token that Keynote, right? SEM, right? That would probably ring some alarm bells in your head, right? Because at the end of the day, even if they were like liquidated and you were stuck with this collateral, right? You're still holding the bag, right? Of basically a worthless like collateral, right? So like in isolated lending, right? You know exactly, right? Which it's far less riskier because you know exactly what pair you're getting involved in, right? You go in, I supply, WBTC to the WBTC USDT, USDT WBTC pool, right? And in this case, it's like I know exactly that the collateral, I receive in the event of counterparty liquidation is USDT, and I'm okay with that, right? Because USDT is a pretty stable token, has been around for a while. I think that's the power of isolated lending, and also as Kino mentioned that Compound and Aave and all these other protocols, they have to manually add these, pairings or these new tokens. Whereas on an isolated lending protocol, like if you don't see the pair you want and you feel would be helpful to the market, right? For example, you said USDT WBTC might not be a helpful pair, right? But maybe, there might be, if people want to, take positions on, I don't know, let's say USDT and, some DeFi token, right? You can immediately create that pair, immediately, start, you know, lending out assets to that pair. There's no friction towards like listing new tokens. There's also no friction to, well, that's not 100% true. I mean, there's some friction depending on the oracles, right? But generally, there's no friction, and it allows for a much more dynamic kind of ecosystem. But dynamic, but like risk mitigated at the same time, because like all the risk is isolated to the pairs themselves. So if you went into a pool that's like WBTC and SRC token or whatever, right? Like what you're getting into, right? You're lending out WBTC, and you're taking SRC as collateral, and who knows, right? If you feel if you feel SRC is an appropriate collateral, then go for it, right? Risk is isolated.
But the cool thing is also like the actual provider token are LP tokens, right?
Yeah.
Like they're tokens, right? So you can also create a strategy, like somebody could create a strategy that says, okay, that's going to redistribute among like all of the pairings it says it's safe. And you can just say, okay, I think I want to provide WBTC, and I think all of those collaterals are safe. And I just have a strategy, and that redistributes according to maximize profits among those. But I'm 100% sure that I won't have any collateral I don't want, and the actual pairs itself will optimize itself for utilization. And
right, and you can also do this in one click through the UI.
Yeah.
Right?
So then in the end, you'll pretty much have the same thing, just with no risk of a bad collateral being added, or like a collateral in there you don't want.
Yeah, that's pretty. It's pretty amazing that you can do that. Like, I mean, it hasn't been the literal button hasn't been built yet, but you could theoretically do that out of the box right now with Kashi.
Right.
And I think the other part, which I'd have to say, is that Kashi isn't meant to maximize on TVL, because TVL doesn't help us at all. Like what we want is to make money for XSushi holders, and we make money for XSushi holders if we get fees. So like each lending pair is just optimized for utilization, and should drive pairs which have high demand. And I'd expect those to be something like stable coin pairings.
And I guess also because of the general flexibility of being able to create different markets and being able to create different pairs, right? This allows like there's no reason that once we have enough pairs, supported pairs, and also the appropriate TVL for all those pairs, that like when you go to exchange.sushi.com, the swap interface probably has a toggle where you can say, hey, instead of taking a swap position, do you want to take a short position, right? Because essentially, every time you're swapping something, you're going long in terms of an asset, but I want to go short, right? I think, X token is overbought. I want to take a, short position. And, that makes that those two features mesh much more easily, right? Because at the end of the day, all the borrow markets, right, for Kashi can be used to, power leverage, right? And all these other interesting trade related features, right, that you would expect on, the swap module, right? When you go swap, why can't you short? And, Kashi and Bento Box kind of answer that question. Their goal is not to answer that question, but the secondary effect is definitely answering that question and providing that feature in the long term. So this gives us the flexibility to actually execute that feature in a decentralized way, which is very interesting in it of itself.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting for the future of Akashi and Bento Box, and just sort of the growing functionality and tools that are offered to users on SushiSwap. One last question I did have, as I actively forget the question. Oh, is it possible to build uh, instead of so like when you're saying you take a short position, are you taking a collateralized short position, or is that a tokenized short position?
Oh, I see. So I guess the mechanics of a short is basically let's take the USDT on WBTC pair, for example, right? So technically on this market / pair, in order to take a short position, you would essentially add USDT as collateral, and then you would borrow WBTC, and then you would swap that WBTC for USDT. So now you are effectively shorting WBTC in terms of USD or USDT. So if WBTC goes down, you make a profit because you can repay. You can swap back to WBTC with your USDT holdings and repay less, WBTC that you earned before. So that difference is basically your profit. So that's essentially the mechanics of a short. And so it takes, traditionally that would take, three or four transactions, right? If you're like opening that kind of position on Cream or Compound or Aave. In Bento Box, and with all these cool things we're talking about with Cooker and making the UI more optimized, you can do all of that in like one click, right? Like the interface can essentially be like, I want to short 500 WBTC, and in order to short 500 WBTC, you'll need to add X amount of USDT, right? You need to add like collateral, right? And then that's effectively a short position, and then you can unwind that position, or do the reverse of that position if you feel like, hey, WBTC is still booming, it's not going down, right? So I better close this position. You can do so through the interface, all in one transaction. Leverage gets interesting because essentially a leverage is taking those three mechanical steps that I just described, the add collateral, borrow, swap, and then just repeating them, right? X amount of times until you like hit a certain, until you hit your like borrow limit based off of like how much collateral you've put up. So that, and that gets rather complex, right? If you were to do it manually, right, through Cream or some other system, and very expensive gas wise. I've opened such positions before just to try it out, right, on Cream Compound, Aave, and probably minimum $800 gas fees.
It's cheaper in August.
Right, cheaper in August right now, probably a little bit like of a sophisticated position to open, right? Because if people are paying minimum 800 to open that kind of short position, right, doing all those manual transactions, not worth it, I guess. But the Bento Box and Kashi interfaces should allow this transaction to be quite simple, right? It would be like how much BTC, WBTC you want to short, and then like how much you want to, like what's the leverage you want to apply, and then you click one button and done.
Right, but that has a liquidation price.
Yeah, that definitely has a like liquidation price point that people should be aware of, and we'll definitely include in the UI like, hey, this is the estimated price point that you should watch out for. And in the in your like Kashi portfolio, like we'll always show you all your open positions and what's the like borrow limit rate that you're the borrow limit that you're approaching, right? So generally, I guess a healthy rule of thumb is that if you see anything approaching 100%, you should probably unwind that position, right? Or add more collateral, or repay some of your borrow. So I guess kind of the game is just never let it approach 100%. In terms of like your borrow limit, and in the portfolio, we'll make those positions very obvious. We also have like an indicator, right, that gets red, or if you're around 10%, of your borrow limit, it's probably green. If it's approaching like 80, it's definitely red, and you should like consider. You'll just be more susceptible to any like drastic price movements. So all those things, we'll continue iterating on the UI. But the actual, I guess, execution of those positions on Kashi, I would say, just based off my experience of using different DeFi products, will be much, much easier and much, much less gas intensive, right? Because it's one transaction, essentially one click. And then boom, that short position, or even leverage short position, is opened. Whereas on other platforms, if you were to construct these positions manually in the way I just described, it would take some time, like just to open like probably a 2x leverage position using like Cream or Compound would probably take like 30 minutes, and just waiting for transactions to resolve, and you'd end up paying like $800 in fees, right? So that's not fun, and also not reasonable. We feel that Kashi will provide a better experience, and also we'll definitely continue working on there is a feature that's in the pipeline, but I don't have a due date for this, that should send a notification if your like borrow limit if your borrow limit is approaching 80%. It'll send you a notification just telling you, hey, like you should check out your positions right now, you're at risk of like liquidation.
Like a transaction notification
Oh,
to
yeah,
my
it's actually
Ethereum address?
so the reason I said I don't have a concrete due date is because so this feature, it's still in play, but like as it functions now, you can like enter an email address and like attach an address. Enter an email
I see.
address and attach your attach whatever address, right, to it, and it'll just like send an alert out if that wallet address has an open position on Kashi that's approaching 80% borrow limit, or like exceeding it, and it'll just like send out a
Gotcha.
text, or send out an email. So that's like
Just quality of life.
yeah, that's functional, I guess. Like I don't know how people feel about like putting up emails, phone numbers, right, on DeFi, but that's a feature that we were also
It's less of an
experimenting
issue
with.
now with stuff like Proton Mail and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
definitely. So Proton Mail, and it doesn't even need to be your own address. It could be anyone's address, and it should shoot you a quick notification. I would
You
say
can get notifications of when to liquidate people.
exactly. You can see like I guess if it were abused, you could add a bunch of people's addresses and just take a look out. I guess liquidators could, I guess, get notifications if it's prime
Kind
time
of
to turn on their
liquidate Sam.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I think we covered Kashi pretty well, unless anybody has any questions from the community. I did have a few other proposals I wanted to cover and get a chance to talk about. But yeah, were there any questions from the community? All right, awesome. Yeah, I mean, Omakase and Kino, you're welcome to stay if you'd like. But I know Kino, it's probably really late for him. But thank you guys for coming out and talking about Kashi and sort of, giving further insight to what's going on with sushi.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, and I guess if anybody here has any further questions that they think of, just at Omakase in general, and
Or
I'm
at me.
usually or at Kino, and we're both very quick at responding. And I personally don't mind if people at me. I prefer it. I actually don't. Yeah, I don't like if things are being discussed and like people aren't getting questions answered just because they're like talking amongst themselves and just never at like anyone on core team. So like feel free to at me anytime. And yeah.
Because like I think we're all more than happy to answer questions, but the reality is we can't just like scroll through every thread on every day, unfortunately. So mentions really help us out to answer any relevant questions.
Awesome. Yep. I sympathize with trying to read every single thread. Drives me nuts. Looking at the forums every day sometimes, then I'm like, oh, forgot to look at Twitter. Oh, I forgot to look at this. Oh, I forgot to look at this.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks guys. Really appreciate it. So moving on to other news, we had the Onsen Round 2 update. Just to run through these quickly, the new pairs in the Onsen earning some sushi rewards are Sport X, Yield. I think it's Yield Finance, but Yield App, not 100% on that. Yield App, DFX Finance, Firo, Ocean Protocol, Woo Trade, Ontology, Benchmark Protocol, Mask Network, Inverse Finance, Ergo, Polymath Network, Elastic DAO, Horizon, Keeper DAO, Must, District 0x, Olympus, Pool Together, and BZX Protocol. So yeah, a lot of DeFi hot tokens in there, and some that I've never even heard of as well, which is pretty interesting. Definitely check those out in the Onsen. And then additionally, DSD will be migrating to a Sushi Swap pool. That's pretty exciting. This little quote from what they had to say. With DIP 16, we are proposing to move to the main liquidity pool from Uniswap to Sushi Swap. Upon implementation, Sushi Swap LPs are rewarded with DSD during expansion. Since 0x Mackie is already on our multi-sig panel, we are now on the verge to fully move over to Sushi Swap to intensify our cooperation. Sushi is showing an impressive development, and we are happy to onboard the train and see long-standing benefits for our community. So yeah, that's exciting. And then additionally, Bitwise Investments, which is as far as I could understand, it is a hedge fund or a private investment a firm, I guess. And they offer products to institutional or accredited investors. And they added sushi to their DeFi index product. It's very similar to the Grayscale DeFi ETF. Pretty sure they're like almost exactly the same product, but there is probably some minor differences there worth looking at if you are an accredited investor, which I am not. And so, yeah, we had a bunch of proposals this week as well. I'm actually going to start off with this Project Galaxy proposal. We have Ken out from Galaxy to talk about the proposal. Ken, are you there?
Hey, Magic Turtle. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. This is Ken
no
from
problem.
Galaxy Project Galaxy. We're actually also the team behind a project called Alpaca City. So this new project, like Project Galaxy, is co-built by both by co-built by Alpaca City team. So earlier today we posted the proposal on the forum. I don't know if you guys ever see it. It's in the proposal discussion channel. There's a link to our post. Essentially, what we want to build is to help Sushi to build its own NFT-based loyalty system. We think NFT can be a perfect medium for DAOs or communities or developers to build their own a loyalty system. Something I think in the future every organization will need. Actually, the traditional traditional organizations maybe already have their own CRM or loyalty system tools to build a loyalty system. But now for DAO or decentralized communities, they don't really have a solution at the moment. And based on our experience in the Alpaca City, we realized that with the power of NFT, it can really help a lot for communities, to utilize it to increase their utility of the token, promote staking, governance, and also really increase the user retention and better manage their user relationship. So if you are at the doc, at the post on the forum, you can pretty much see why we want to build this and how it works. So I just go through it very quick. I can directly jump into the how does Project Galaxy work part. So
Yeah.
right. So basically, you can see this as a two parts campaigns. The first part is how we are going to distribute the NFT. So imagine we're going to. There are two types. One is called drop campaign. The second type is called staking campaign. So the drop campaign, you can understand it as we're gonna put up some requirements for Sushi community. You guys are gonna decide the requirement for users to get this NFT. For example, we can use their activities on governance, ever participating in the discussion, voting, creating proposals, or we use some other data, for example, their wallet activities in the Sushi Swap related contracts. Something like this as a requirement to issue the NFT. So it's more than just the airdrop for the NFT, but based on the requirement, based on their past activities on Sushi Swap. And then the NFT can be distributed in just a direct way or a mystery box, so they get random NFT from the series. The series will be designed by us and also the Sushi Swap design team. So we're gonna figure it out together what the design. And then the second type of campaign we call it staking campaign, or in the other world we can call it asset-backed NFT. So you stake any kind of ERC20 token, can be LP or X Sushi, but again, this will be finally decided by you guys. And then from there, we are going to, say you deposit 10 X Sushi, then you will be able to mint an NFT from this campaign series. And then the asset deposit will not be able to withdraw unless you burn this NFT. So the asset is packaged inside of the NFT itself. So this is the second type of campaign, staking campaign. This is how we distribute it. And the third part, which is the gamification part, right? It's for existing NFT holders, Sushi NFT holders. So for the forging campaign, with the existing NFT, you are able to forge multiple different NFTs into one with higher level of rarity or better attributes. And then the forging process is partially by luck, but sometimes if you're, for example, for asset-backed NFT, you really have a say your NFT really collateralized by 1,000 sushi, X sushi, then that really will increase a lot your chance to get better NFT. And then yeah, so to be straightforward, let me use an example. You guys can scroll down to the Sushi Swap campaign ideas part, and you will see, okay, so the drop campaign, what we're going to do, we're gonna call it Sushi Chef NFT. So the NFTs in this campaign, the NFT series in this campaign will be different kind of characters. For example, chefs, guests, or yeah, some different kind of characters. And then you just need to participate. We want to, for this part, we want to reward the governance participants. No matter they had a discussion, participated in voting, creating proposals, different ways. They will be eligible to join this drop campaign. And there will be a second drop campaign. We're gonna call it cooking tools or utensil NFTs. So imagine in this NFT series, it will be chopsticks, dishes, right? Soy sauce bottles, something like this. And for this part, we want to focus on rewarding liquidity providers. So we're going to set the specific numbers. For example, you provided, I don't know, 10 LPs or 1 LP or something for how long, and then you will be able to join this campaign. And then there will be a third staking campaign. The staking campaign is designed for X sushi holders. And the theme for this staking campaign, we're going to call it just sushi NFTs. So you will be able to, the NFT you will get will be something like a salmon, yellowtail, different kind of sushi or different sashimis. That's the theme for this campaign, and we especially designed this to reward X sushi holders. And then on top of all of these three, there will be a forging campaign, allow all existing NFT holders to mix with their NFT. So you have a character NFT from the first Sushi Chef campaign. You have the seasoning. You have the utensils NFT from the second liquidity LP campaign. You have the sushi dishes NFT from staking campaign. You will be able to forge all of this, and then it will have different parameters and requirement. But the idea is you will be able to build your own sushi restaurant, 3-star sushi restaurant. And the NFT for this forging campaign, eventually you will get a restaurant. There will be 3 different types: 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. Really depends on what type of NFT you put when you forge it. So that's the idea for now, the proposal. And currently we're working closely with the design team and the BD team to see how we can make this make sure how we can kick this off as soon as possible, and make sure it won't be too hard for normal users to join. So the requirement won't be too high for users. But yeah, that's the idea. And on the proposal, we also actually put a case study there, so you guys can have a better understanding how it works. For example, you see the first part, there is a mining rig. Right, you collect different parts: motherboard, GPU, frame, cooling, CPU, power. And once you collected all 6 NFTs, you will be able to forge it into a mega mining rig NFT. There will be 3 different designs, actually 3 different level of rarity. And if you're able to collect all of them, first of all, the community, the developer, or for example, Sushi Swap, you guys can decide what we want to reward to those holders who hold our ultimate form of NFTs, or we can have we can design some constant reward distribution to these NFT holders. For example, we give them, for those who hold a 3-star sushi restaurant, just like this mega mining rig, right? The 3-star sushi restaurant NFT, we will be able to receive a monthly airdrop of something, right? That's something we can do. And also maybe we can get additional benefits from Kashi, right? Higher leverage, or additional benefits in the upcoming missile program. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming, but this is the idea for now. Yeah. You guys can.
Yeah, this is really cool. It sounds like a very like I like the game, like the gamified
Forging?
sort of collecting of
Yeah, the forging.
NFTs. Yeah, I mean, one thing that I did think of that, you know, and I mean, it's not in what you proposed here, but like if somebody created some NFTs out of X sushi that was like in, and the X sushi became locked in the NFTs,
Yeah.
and then they were forging that, trying to get like some rare NFT, and then they like
Yes.
were losing money because they were forging it into like a low tier NFT just because of randomness. That would sort of make me not feel very good for that
Yeah,
person.
the logistic here is if you have if any kind of a forging campaign involves asset backed NFT, for example, you put a 10x sushi into minting one NFT, and then you use that NFT to forge into a higher level one. Even though the rarity you get probably will not be the best one, but the face value will stay the same. So anytime, anytime when users go to redeem this NFT, burn this NFT for X Sushi, they can always do so. But of course,
That's right.
we're gonna set the requirement, for example, minimum 10 days or 15 days until you can burn it. But for asset-backed NFT, the asset deposited into the NFT would never disappear. Just like a similar concept like a white gift. Right, you can turn your asset into the NFT and gift it to someone. This is a similar idea, but the asset will not disappear, and you can always have this. It always has this face value, and you can always redeem it.
Awesome. And so this is so it says Project Galaxy was co-founded by the Alpaca City team.
Alpaca City team, yes.
So was Alpaca City like your guys' first foray into doing an NFT project, and then you realized you could sort of take the modularity of it like outwards, and that's where Galaxy came from?
Yes, basically, after we launched the Alpaca City project, we realized, every project or every community or every developer, they can actually build their own version of Alpaca City, right? Not just Alpaca City has its own governance token, but the same philosophy or same design can be applied to others. For example, for our case, for sushi community, we can utilize X sushi here. We can utilize sushi here. We can utilize LP tokens, right? So it can really help with the utility of the token, all the tokens we support it, and also it promotes staking. Say if say we have a 50% of the users, they want to play this, they holding the asset anyways, but it gives them a different way to hold it, a gamified with the gamified modules. So yeah, that's the idea. We just want to help every developer to build their own version of Alpaca City. And with the Alpaca City, we have another feature that haven't been released on Galaxy, which is the farming feature. So in Alpaca City, we allow users to deposit their Alpa. Alpa is the governance token of Alpaca City. So Alpa, ETH, LP farming. So they can deposit their LP token. But if you have a better Alpaca NFT, that serves like a boost for your farm. It gives you better yield if you have a better energy in your Alpaca NFT. So that's how that part works, and that can be always applied to other projects in Project Galaxy. For example, if Sushi want to enable this feature, for NFT holders to use their NFT to help them farm in onsen, right? Or even in the just the LP farming, just farm sushi better. Give them a little bit bonus if they hold their NFT. That's something we can always work on. And I think this project, the reason why we're calling it a loyalty system is more than just the NFT one time off campaign. Because people want to play it for a long time. They can continue to forge it. There will be cooldown time. They cannot forge all at once in one day, right? They start to collect different NFT by doing different things, and then they forge it, they play it, and we can set the multiple levels. Right? It's not only level 0, level 1, but you can also be you will also be able to probably forge into level 3, level 4. Right? It really depends on how we design it. But this campaign, this NFT, we call it loyalty system, is aiming to create a long-term sustainable value for every community member.
Yeah, this sounds really, really cool. So, what? Hold on. Yeah. So, what does Galaxy want out of this partnership? I guess because it seems like you're just offering to do free work here.
Yeah, well, in the long term, we want to make this plug and play module. We call it NFT as a service, NAS. But you can just understand it, like a plug and play module. In the future, imagine every developer we'll have a UI up soon, and developers, they can come to our site, create their own space, and then launch their own campaign step by step. And then the next step is move forward. They can use this as a one-stop dashboard to create different NFT campaigns, especially manage their own create and manage their own loyalty-based NFT-based loyalty system. And for us, we want to see, and I actually, we're pretty sure, in the future, NFT doesn't only serve like a collection, and it can be multiple, can be used in multiple purpose and really help with the user engagement. And also the Galaxy itself will have its own Galaxy token. The Galaxy token is the governance token of the protocol. So in the future, the DAO will decide what components, what module we're going to work on. And also there will be a fee in the future. If new developers want to create their own space, they probably are required to staking some governance token to get started. And also in the forging part, on top of the transaction fee, there will be maybe a small fee will be charged by the protocol, and the fee will be rewarded to Galaxy staking holders, and also in the community treasury. That's how it works. And in the long term, we believe, if this can be a good how do I say this can be a really good case study for all other communities, and we can see in the future really every community can utilize this system to build their own loyalty system.
Gotcha. Yeah, my mind is sort of a buzz. I'm even thinking about like trying to come up with solutions to where you can um, have NFTs represent or to represent Sushi Power, essentially the
Yes.
voting token.
Yes, exactly. We thought about this. We also thought about, your asset-backed NFT can also be used like a secure line of credit, right? Say you have a 1,000 sushi collateralized into the NFT. The NFT can be a secure credit card, right? It can be in the future. Maybe we can, we can directly give you a line of credit based on your NFT. That's something we can do. I think a lot can be explored in this part, but this opened up a lot of possibility. Uh, Especially, I think a DAO as a new kind of organization in this world. Um, there will be a lot of tools in the future to serve DAO. Just like recently, I see a year in community they announced the coordinate, right, to the payroll system for DAO. I think I think this will be the future, and really, I hope you guys like the campaign, and we can always twist the details. We want to make sure everybody likes it, and we want to see how we can roll up this as soon as possible. The current schedule, I think next week we can probably confirm the all the parameters and the design. We already started to work on the design with the sushi design team.
Okay, awesome.
Should be done within 1 to 2 weeks. If possible, we want to release this within 2 to 3 weeks, and I think it will be very good for every community member. Because myself, also a big sushi holder. I would love to see this.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys are in talks with some of the art team already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely would like to get you back on when the proposal has some more of the specifications in terms
Yeah.
of sort of like how many layers and
Right.
and everything.
Yeah.
But
Sounds good.
it's really exciting. It's I mean, I definitely hear the hype on asset backed NFTs.
Mhm.
But I like the little like shiny, just little art images that, I technically,
yeah.
own, you know.
Yeah.
But I totally
The gamification part, I
understand.
understand.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for those, for any of you guys, if you guys have any questions, just leave the comment on the post. We'll answer you guys, and we want to make sure that everybody likes it, and we want to roll it out fast and perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Ken, for coming out.
No
And
problem.
yeah, I'll did you private message me in Discord, or was that somebody else?
Oh, that was me. That was me.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
you? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll keep talking to you, and we can coordinate on when to get you
No
back
problem.
on.
No problem.
All right. Right. So we have we have like 3 proposals in Snapshot right now that are all, I believe off my memory, they're all passing. Looking for the link right now. But just to start off, we have the clause proposal. Yeah, this is definitely passing. I'm just going to read the summary briefly. Badger DAO and UMA protocol are collaborating to enable users that have their WBTC ETH Sushi LP or Badger positions staked in the Badger set vaults to mint synthetic stable coins. We call them S clause and B clause. We like to partner with Sushi Swap for this new product initiative with the purpose of giving sushi LPs the ability to borrow against their positions while earning interest. The intention is for this to be the first test of this with subsequent similar launches to follow. So yeah, I highly recommend reading this proposal. This is pretty awesome. If you're aware of what Badger do, they have basically a synthetic Bitcoin token, and they have these sets that are sort of like they're basically vaults, right? On yield, and they both execute strategies with the tokens in each individual set, and also yield you Badger tokens, I believe, on some of the vaults at least. Yeah, but that's pretty awesome, exciting proposal. And then we also have the Sushi House Treasury Management proposal, which is something that's been in the works for many weeks. Sushi House is a fully customizable treasury management solution built by Yam Finance Team. This proposal would allow Sushi DAO to migrate part of the Sushi Treasury. Looks like it is going to be, I think, 5 million in the risk averse portfolio, and then 5 million in DPI. Or mystery. No, it's just 5 million split between the risk averse and DPI. All right, and that is passing. And then we also had the Sushi on Solana proposal, which is in essence bringing sushi rewards to pools on Radium, and then in those pools that have sushi rewards on Radium, a percentage of the fees, just like on Sushi Swap, is fed back to ex-sushi stakers, and that's to get additional exposure to Solana exclusive or Solana native tokens. Did anybody have any thoughts on any of those proposals, or have I beat the dead horse on all these proposals over the past month? I think I beat the horse dead. Omakase, are you still there? Okay. No worries.
I'm here. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the vested sushi. Is that all getting worked out by, I think you said it was going to be happening early next week? That's when it starts.
Next Monday. So there'll be a tab. It'll be like named Lock Sushi. You click it, and it'll show you how much you can claim every week. So, yeah, all of our like, sorry, stumbling.
No worries.
So you can go to Lock Sushi. You can claim it. There should also be a chart that shows everyone like the total unlocked every week. And we still need to clarify these queries, but I would say generally for people who have 100 sushi or less locked, on the final like week, we're going to be adding 1 sushi to rebate as like a gas rebate, because gas is like approximately gas to harvest on this specific harvest function is around $15 at the moment.
I see. So you're basically rebating for one
Yeah.
harvest at the very end.
One harvest at the very end. I guess what. So let's say you have like 20 sushi locked. And that 20 sushi, each week maybe it's like unlocking one sushi. What we would recommend is, wait until the end, and then, you can harvest everything in one go. And it'll also include, your, um, you know, the 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 gas rebate at the end. So you can get your 20 sushi out without having to pay like, $15-$30 fee. So you don't need to, I guess for our users, you don't need to harvest every week. If you don't harvest one week, that balance will accrue into the next week. So just like harvest anytime you guys feel comfortable. And I think that page that we're coming up with the lock sushi amount, I'm adding some additions to it because I feel people, um, after a round of user interviews, I feel people don't know what they can do with sushi, right? So like, there'll be links to steak in the sushi bar, right? There'll be links to use Ross Campbell's new one-click sushi to AX sushi tool. There'll be links to, add your sushi to Bento Box, right? Because on Bento Box, we actually already have a sushi strategy, and that
What?
sushi strategy. Oh, sorry.
What? I did not know that.
Oh, well. This is still in our staging environment. You can add sushi to Bento Box, and basically what it will do for you is passively manage your sushi for you. So
What
it'll
is the
take everyone's
strategy?
sushi. The strategy is just staking into Sushi Bar for now. It's a pretty
Oh,
simple one. Right?
okay.
So, but it's interesting because you can actually, so on Bento Box you can have sushi without staking it, and then you can like create whatever markets you want in Kashi that are sushi based and not X sushi based, right? So I haven't really thought through like entirely what that all means, but Bento Box is interesting in the fact that like eventually strategies will be applied to all your balances. I think uh, like the one that will probably pass without governance is just the sushi bar strategy for just sushi. That's a very simple, straightforward, like no risk strategy. There will be other strategies released that will require a vote. So there's a compound strategy where we take amounts from the bento box and deposit into compound for comp, and then that comp gets swapped into the relevant token amounts, right, that are in the bento box. So there are strategies that will be released in the coming weeks. The X sushi strategy is ready, and then I guess that's just the simplest, right? It's just if you put sushi in the bento box, it takes that sushi for you and um, takes that sushi for you and stakes it in sushi bar. But your bento balance still says sushi, so you actually don't have to wrap the sushi yourself into X sushi.
Yeah,
Some
that's pretty.
interesting things there. Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, I know. Uh, uh, yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to at me. I guess so. There is one detail that happy to share, which is regarding the protocol, like aggregator protocols. If you're a member of those aggregator protocols, we're still working it out with those teams to verify the queries. So as an aside, those unlocks might not be ready by Monday because we still need to, I think for a couple protocols like Badger and, Pickle, we've figured out the right queries to determine like who are the end users that should, receive their sushi. There are a couple other ones that we haven't fully figured out. We expect that'll be like on a rolling basis. But once we immediately figure out and verify those queries as to who the end user is of those aggregator protocols, those will also be accessible from your like unlock page on exchange.sushi.com.
Awesome. Okay, that's good to hear. And I I did have just one last question about the
Sure.
strategies. Is the protocol for that a snapshot vote and then it gets implemented, or is that a like some in protocol, almost like compound governance, smart contract?
Yeah, I think starting off, it'll be like we'll put up a couple on the forum for people to discuss, and also give, any discussion and like better ideas for what they think. For the compound one, we want to see if the community thinks this is an appropriate and like safe enough strategy. We believe actually the compound strategy is probably like one of the lowest risks on the market today. And then it'll be, I guess, elevated to a snapshot proposal. And once the snapshot is implemented, then once the snapshot's accepted, that strategy will go live. So I guess that's the current operating procedure. As I said, for the X sushi strategy, that's a very straightforward strategy that I don't think requires a vote, because any sushi, it's actually my belief that if you're just like, all sushi should be staked into X sushi. There should be no reason not to stake into X sushi. And that's probably a miscommunication or UI UX issue if people aren't staking their X sushi into Sushi Bar. So X sushi strategy is already implemented. And that will just like take all the sushi and put it into Sushi Bar, so it can start accruing like the 5% APY in the Sushi Bar, and add it to your bento box sushi bar. I don't know if that answers your question. I think the strategy is in like a recent discussion. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, your mic cut out there for.
Oh, sorry.
a couple seconds.
I don't know if that fully answers your question regarding the governance strategy regarding the implementation and deployment of
Yeah, no,
strategies.
it did.
Yeah. I think there might also be. I need to double check, but I think eventually strategies will be, selectable, I guess, as opposed to like applied on a general basis. Some of the initial strategies will be that are up for governance vote are like applied on a general basis on all bento box funds.
Gotcha. So that's like, is that medium term, or are you talking like long term, like Bento Box V2? It'll be something like that,
I
hopefully.
would say medium term. We still need to. I guess strategies are still in play. Like we definitely have the procedure and the technical capacity. We're just discussing which strategies. I mean, we're also discussing with Yearn, because Yearn is all about strategies. But some of those strategies also, I would say most of the strategies will go up for a governance vote to see if the community is comfortable, and if they're willing to, if they have the risk appetite, right, to accept certain strategies. I would say the short-term ones that we're coming out with, like the Sushi Bar one and the Compound one, those are generally, I guess, the lowest risk strategies on the market.
Yeah, it'd be.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if a DeFi community voted against integrating with two of the largest like DeFi platforms.
Right. So, I guess at the end of the day, cool thing about Bento Box is eventually we want this to become kind of like, a wallet where you just, deposit your funds, can hold your funds, can use any, apps in Bento Box with at a very low, like low or almost no gas rate. And, you know, and everything in your balances will, accrue yield automatically. There should be no like active management, or etc. So there can be some interesting strategies, right? Like, there's no reason why, like Ross Campbell's, one click, sushi to sushi to X sushi to X sushi wouldn't be a strategy, right? So that would just be immediately stacking two types of yield, right? You would, stake sushi into Sushi Bar, which is, acquiring the Sushi Bar, 5% APY. and then stake X Sushi into Aave as collateral, as lending out, right? So that's like AX Sushi for, I think that lending rate is quite low these days. It's like 0.5%, but you're stacking yields and you still have a composable asset at the end of the day. And in Bento Box, you'll be able to do, I mean, there's a lot of crazy potential there for stacking yields across different apps.
Oh, your mic did that thing again.
Oh, sorry, stacking yields across different apps seamlessly. That'll be, I guess, the strength of Bento Box, right? Once there's different applications on Bento Box, right, and these applications are generating different types of yield, you can have them all interact with each other.
Yeah. I'm also, what is, I mean, this is not related to Cashy or Bento Box, but what is
No problem.
Show You?
Okay, so show you, and I think this goes back to that very original question that we had regarding community engagement and community feedback. I think Show You is a proposal by Levex. He's one of our core developers for kind of to build out an NFT exchange platform, and it will also allow it'll also accommodate the NFT types of the Uniswap v3.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think this is an interesting proposal. I don't know the guts of the details so much. I do think that Sushi needs to explore these different types of swap or exchange mechanisms. NFTs are a great opportunity. I think my personal feelings on the matter are always that Sushi started at like a very serendipitous time, right, where all of the blue chips, DeFi blue chips, were starting to rise together. So that's why for a long time we actually had the best liquidity for DeFi blue chips, right? Like if you went on Sushi, you would have much lower slippage for like trading Wi-Fi than if you went on like Uni. But crypto changes fast, right? And DeFi summer was a year ago, and so it's kind of Sushi's job to continuously find a new cohort of tokens that people are interested in interacting with. I think NFTs are definitely at the top of the list of like things people want to interact with, just based on market sentiment right these days. And it'll be a continual challenge and also opportunity to continually find the next cohort of tokens and onboard them on Sushi. I think Show You is as an NFT exchange allows us to like access different market, and of course with all these initiatives, all the fees are always tied back into X Sushi holders. So that's why I said I don't know why there would be a reason why anyone would just hold Sushi and not stake it into X Sushi, because X Sushi accrues all the benefits from all of our products and also all of our chains. So there's that fact as well.
Gotcha. So okay, so yeah, so it's the I think he posted it as originally called it the NATO.
Yeah, and there was some community feedback that Show You was probably more appropriate name. I think we're going with Show You now.
Yeah, it's definitely has a better ring to it. I'll say that.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, well, I think that about wraps it up. This was actually possibly one of the longest sushi forums. Like 2
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly.
Thank you, everybody who came out and participated and asked questions. I mean, one last sweep. If anybody has a question right now that wants to ask it, I'd hate to cut you off. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. We're gonna do this same time next week on Thursday, 9 p.m. UTC. One additional announcement is that there is going to be another onsen AMA tomorrow at 1 second. At 12 p.m. EST. So yeah. And that's going to be in the sushi in the Discord channel here in the Clubhouse channel, voice channel. But yeah, awesome. Thanks guys for coming out. Stay
Cool.
safe and take it easy.
Thanks for hosting, Magic Turtle.
Awesome.
See you.